This is Metal Mike, and if you've been listening to the 80's Glam Metalcast for a while, you know I'm a huge Kiss fan. Well, in this episode, I'm in my glory because I get to talk to their former legendary guitarist, Bruce Kulick. We talk Asylum, Alive 3, the best alive in my opinion, Carnival of Souls, and all the cool stuff that he's been up to lately. Now stay tuned for after the interview where I reveal my stage ideas and set list for a Carnival of Souls tour. You gotta check it out. Well, Bruce, welcome to the 80's Glam Metalcast. How are you, my friend?
Very good. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well, no problem. It's a pleasure because Kiss is my all-time favorite band, and it's just an honor to be speaking with you.
Awesome.
So, hey, man, I know COVID-19 is sidelining a lot of live gigs, but, man, you've been keeping busy. You've been doing all kinds of cool performances online with your wife, with Jericho, Q&As. That's been awesome.
Well, thanks. It's funny, my lawyer manager made a joke earlier when we were chatting, and he goes like, because I asked him, I said, did you see that one with Lisa? You know, we covered a Blackjack song from my Michael Bolton days. I said, what'd you think of that? And he goes like, yeah, I see it. You should be saving it all for a DVD. Why are you giving it away? and then he's a manager, so my reaction was like, well, I go out of my mind any other way. You know, I have to stay. I do look at everything I'm doing during the pandemic as something that will be very useful when life is back to normal too. Because I do love performing with my wife, for example. So now instead of like convincing, let's say, a promoter if there was a possible run of dates and ski lodges on the East Coast or in another country, you know, that there's stuff to share, you know, to show us, you know what I mean? And you know, learning how to record in my home as opposed to running off to studios and everything became a necessity, and I'm enjoying it. And it's all like a learning curve, new tricks that I'm accomplishing. Even how to video you tape yourself properly and to edit it possibly and fool around with it. That's all a challenge, but it's something that I've been jumping into. That is all things that were not as easy to get done when you're traveling every weekend, because my Grand Funk gig was just about every weekend. I'd be traveling for 2-3 days, you know, so it made a lot of the things that I've been concentrating on that I've been able to share on social media. It didn't make that easy to be able to do it to that extent, at least. So, and a silver lining of the pandemic is if there wasn't a pandemic, you know, Chris Jericho wouldn't have bothered with a project like that called Quarantine and covering Kiss songs. I think you understand what I mean.
Yeah.
So it's a positive that lots of people are reaching out to different people and doing new things, you know. Obviously, not having that opportunity to play live like what's typical in the industry is sorely missed by the majority of the world.
Sure.
Not only America, but it's just something that has to be curbed for now, and in the future we'll see when it is right. I know of some people that are doing some things, and it's encouraging if it's done right, but since I'm not you know, really like a participant to know how did it go, there's no way I can comment on it. But we do know that gathering, which is what concerts are all about, is not a great idea right now. So I think we need to know more in moving forward and figuring that out. But the way we share, the way everyone's been communicating and learning and doing things online, and all of that, you know, that's very safe, and it can be very entertaining. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I think it's been great for the fans. I know they've really enjoyed it, and I've enjoyed, you know, the stuff you've been doing, and a lot of other people have done some wild things. There's a lot of cool parodies. There's all kinds of crazy stuff. So it's really brought out creativity for sure.
Yes, and certainly we need to stay in the enjoyable part of the spectrum, because there is so much division and stress, and you know, politics have never been worse, and all of that. Thank God there's some balance of people being creative. You know, I think that's really important.
Yeah, me too. Well, hey, man, I got to tell you, the first Kiss album I ever bought was Asylum, and that's the first Kiss album that you're the official guitarist. So what do you think of Asylum looking back on it?
You know, first of all, even though it was like my first official album with the band, it's interesting to note that, you know, Kiss was always evolving and changing. Animalize was different from Lick It Up, and Lick It Up was obviously different from The Elder, and so on and so forth. And during my era, each album had its own thing. And in looking back at Asylum, I thought it had a great balance of, you know, some very exciting rock songs, and then at the same time, some really, you know, great melodic rock stuff too, like A Tears Are Falling. The other, you know, Who Wants to Be Lonely. These are songs I love playing. You know, that I just feel really defined. And then, of course, there's Love's a Deadly Weapon. You know, so then there's an aggressive, crazy song like that one. You know, it's funny. Like that one's going to be next for Quarantine, and then they were looking at I'll Fight Hell to Hold You, but that was Crazy Nights, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and that one I may be guesting on. I've volunteered to take a stab at it when they're ready. But it's ironic you bring up Asylum. Like after we're done with the call today, there's an artist in Sweden who does terrific reggae Kiss stuff, and I was always really impressed. I don't know if I can't remember now if they put out an entire record like that or just specific songs in the past, but they kind of tempted me with like, what do you think? You think you can add some guitars to this song, you know? And I was fooling around with it on Monday, and the guy loved the direction, so I'm actually going to plug into that home studio that I mentioned earlier and do a pretty novel approach, shall I call it, because it won't sound exactly in any way like Tears Are Falling, but it is Tears Are Falling, you know. So, in other words, I got to play and be a little creative, you know, and a tip of the hat to a great song that works in any genre, to be honest with you. And then having me, you know, be creative and play lead guitar, but don't play it exactly like Asylum or Bruce, you know. So, you know, there's going to be a big anniversary coming up later on this year, I believe, for Asylum, actually. And I believe, you know, it probably came out sometime in '85, so it'll probably be one of those, you know, 35-year things or something like that.
Oh, that's awesome. You know, one thing that I noticed looking back on that album, when I listened to it today, I feel like, you know, Animalize is a little metallic, and so is Lick It Up. I feel like some of the old Kiss is infused in there. And one thing that kind of stuck out to me was like a song like from Love Gun, Tomorrow and Tonight, almost is very similar to All Night. The verses are kind of similar, and I feel like there's some of that old Kiss vibe infused in Asylum. Do you kind of hear that too, or?
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly, and I see that across the whole spectrum of the discography for the band, but it's interesting how you connected a few of those, and I hadn't actually thought of that. But, you know, look, you got a common thread of Gene and Paul on every record,
Yep.
obviously, and Paul was really mostly in charge in Asylum, because Gene was still looking at acting and stuff, and that I know there's been a lot of press about that, but it was kind of true, although by the time we got into the studio, they were bouncing me back and forth between the two of them, and I didn't have a day off. I think I worked like 3 weeks straight. You know, Gene doesn't believe in vacations, and, you know, Paul would like the weekend off, so I never got a break, but who cared? There I am at Electric Lady Studios, which is Jimi Hendrix's place, you know, which was a childhood dream for me to have anything to do with Electric Lady. And there I am, you know, parked there for probably over 5 weeks. Maybe we were recording there, and it was so exciting. So I'm still really proud of it. It's just real interesting how that album actually means a lot to a lot of people. It really does.
Yeah, it does. Now you talked about kind of working with both these guys. You've got a lot of co-writes with each of them. Did you gel better with one or the other in a songwriting situation?
It was really ironic what a complicated thing it was to navigate, because they both liked different things, but you needed to use your instinct to say, I'd rather save this song idea, riff, or chord progression for Gene because I think it's more him. And so you try to do that, and hopefully Gene will embrace it and really work on it. Paul was very particular with what he liked, so I was even more careful with what I brought to him. And ironically enough, it seemed like if I already played it for Gene and he knew that for some reason, Paul would probably not be as kind to it. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
I guess there was a bit of a territorial kind of thing about it. Like I said, there was a lot to navigate, but it's all a guessing game anyway. And co-writing with people, especially if they're super successful, talented writers like Gene and Paul, who have written by themselves and have written with other co-writers, how to make that work is such a unique dynamic that I just can't even explain. Like if someone called me up and said like, "Hey, I'm going to write with Paul, give me some tips," it's like, it'd be like, use your instinct is about the simplest way I put it, right? But at the time, again, because I'm dealing with a creation of mine or multiple, ideas, the opportunity of having a co-write on the Kiss record, which meant career importance, it meant a financial reward. You can understand all that.
Sure.
And the pressure of that, and then if you kind of follow, if your instinct's wrong and you went down the wrong, direction with a great idea, it might get left behind or just completely, stomped on. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it was fun when Kiss was over for me to look at, all right, I'm going to do a solo record, which became Audio Dog, which I believe came out in 2001. And I started working on it, like after Union was done, the band that I had with John Corabi. And I remember thinking, well, I'm going to go to my closet, meaning your box of cassettes, to see what, through the years, that I thought was a good idea that just didn't take off, with both Gene and Paul. Mm-hmm. And maybe 4 or 5 of those songs really became something that was I thought quite special for Audio Dog. So, even a good idea, if it doesn't, happen for that co-write, for that situation, you should never let it go. You should always kind of remember that you have this song, and you can always develop it later down the road.
That's funny. Saying that makes me think of Eric Carr's Rockology, and because I feel like maybe he had songs that didn't get used, but I was so glad that you were able to kind of put that project together and get those songs out there, because there's some killer songs that he had in his arsenal for sure.
Yeah, it was always unfortunate when Eric had a great ballad or something, and then we already had the ballad from Paul, and then, well, now we can't use Eric's. You know what I mean? Yeah. So we definitely he had to deal with that too. Although, he had some success writing with them. I mean, he had an interesting success. I'm not even sure if everybody was aware, but by working with Gene, and then Gene meeting Bryan Adams, all of a sudden, Bryan Adams involved with, I think, War Machine or something like that, which is crazy because it's such a cool metal song in a way. But then Eric suddenly writes something with Bryan Adams that was on one of his really big albums, which is really interesting. So, Eric had his trials and tribulations, but certainly once I had the permission from the family to look at, what do you have? Could we put out, a product? And Rockology came out on a CD, and then not that long ago on a vinyl. And I'm actually talking to some people about the opportunity to offer it in a picture disc as well.
Oh, cool! So
because celebrating Eric's life and his contribution to Kiss is always important, and I think he's quite loved because of all the talent and all the contributions he made through the years. But that's exactly what Rockology was. Anything left over, and then, of course, the Rockhead songs that I worked real hard. None of those were meant for Kiss, but they were meant for a cartoon rock band, so why not include them?
Yeah, one song that just blows me away, and I love it, is Eyes of Love. I can't believe that didn't make a Kiss record. It's such a cool tune.
Yeah, that was probably pitched, and it should have been, but at least I have a really good demo of it that was used on the record. Absolutely. Eric had a great voice too.
Yeah, he did.
He really could sing. You know, he played some bass. He even played some bass on some Kiss songs, supposedly, and he was very creative. Yeah, I you know, in a lot of the bands, you'd be surprised that sometimes a guy that's you only know him for his role on one instrument, but actually he's, you know, has much more to offer, but he's in a band with some super talents that kind of are, you know, in the forefront, so you don't get to see that. Who would think Dave Grohl would come out of Nirvana and become the star that he is?
Oh, yeah.
You know, so, you know, that's always what's interesting. But any band that has, like, that guy who, even if he's just, whatever, from the keyboard player, bassist, drummer, or whatever, and then he's actually just this, like, really, really talented artist that could be a star in his own right. When it happens, you know, it kind of makes sense down the line. But for what he was doing, that's what he was doing. He was a team player, and all bands need that, you know.
For sure. I want to say in May it was the anniversary of Alive 3, and a lot of times on Twitter and Facebook, you know, everybody's talking about these albums, and I went out there and I said, hey, I think this is the best Kiss Alive, and, you know, that meets with a lot of controversy. Bruce, what do you think of that?
Well, look, you got to remember that the original Kiss, really the first live record, was what really solidified them as a major artist, okay, as an actual big stars, you know, because there was something about those live presentations of those songs that was more, I think they were, in a sense, it represented a much grander version of Kiss than the studio recordings.
Yeah.
So it means a lot to the fans that grew up in the, you know, embraced Makeup Kiss. And Alive 2, I thought they just solidified and carried on from there. I never will forget when I first saw the cover, I thought the Gene picture was just priceless.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was just like Godzilla meets a bass player, you know what I mean? You know? And I remember when I got obviously the opportunity to be in the band and I could chat with someone like Gene casually, I remember telling him, and they said, oh, they didn't want to use this picture. They did not want to go with this. I insisted. I said, you were 1,000,000% right.
He
I
was.
photo, you know, because, and you know, you got to remember, I was looking at Kiss through different eyes. I was not, you know, to me, bands that used an imagery thing, even David Bowie's Aladdin Insane album cover, I was just like, huh? What's this? You know what I mean? I never quite could you know, sometimes I would think I wouldn't take the music as seriously, you know what I mean, which is wrong, but you know, by the time I was aware of Alive 2, I was quite familiar with the band, and I had a different attitude about them than just, you know, a band that was wearing makeup, okay? Because I certainly finally got it, you know. But anyway, Alive 3, you know, quite a bit of the record is vintage songs, so your diehard makeup fan is gonna never look at, let's say, a Love Gun as interesting as the original, let's say, you know. And but I will admit that there are a lot of big supporters of Alive 3 because that version of the band with Eric Singer and myself, like the MTV Unplugged, that had a real special chemistry between us. And playing quality, it does mean a lot to them. I will also add that I do think that Alive 3 is probably the most actually organic one of the three records, you know. Of course, I wasn't there for 1 and 2, but I heard stories about a lot of, you know, things being redone. And I'm not going to in any way represent that Alive 3 was you know, a virgin recording from the tapes and that's it, and things weren't done. I know we had challenges with the some of the crowd things weren't recorded the way we needed them. There were, I know I touched up one thing, and there might have been an occasional thing that Paul did, but it wasn't like massive work redone, you know what I mean, which is a good a good sign. There were 3 gigs that we chose the record from. The majority of it being actually, I believe, Indianapolis, but there was a Cleveland, Indy, and maybe a Detroit show. I'm not positive. I should actually compare the cassettes I have. I actually have some of those board tapes, because I remember that we all got a chance to, like, hear it, listen to, like, if you like, Domino that night, make a note, that kind of thing. So, but it was we were really firing on all, cylinders, but the oddest part of Alive 3 is the fact that we do this amazing soundtrack version of I Was Made for Loving You, but never played it in front of a crowd. I don't know if you knew that.
No.
Yeah, you won't find it on the set list. So, but we knew the song would be important, right? And it doesn't sound any different than anything else on the record, does it?
No.
You get what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I actually think, I'm trying to remember now, if some of the crowd was like a Heart concert or something, when you're in a studio, people have libraries of shit and things are stored there, and it was just like, what else you got? We need a better crowd sound here, and it could have been like a live gig from a band like Heart, or whatever it was, it worked. I really think it was a great, celebration of the Revenge tour and where the band was at. And I remember I was a little hurt when I know there was a couple of comments from Gene and Paul acknowledging what you started out with as the question. How could Alive 3 be, how could it even compete with those other ones? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I feel, for fans of my era and the non-makeup years, I feel it does. You know what I mean? And I used to love, if I was traveling and I was going to get a pickup band in a country because I couldn't really deal with, in the amount of time I had to travel and all the expenses to take a band with me, it would be like, all right, we're going to do mostly an Alive 3 show. Here are the songs to learn. And that was always a great blueprint for a very successful gig for a set list, because it had a combination of fantastic songs from the original makeup band to representing my era. So it's always a good place to start for a set list, for sure.
Let's just skip to Carnival of Souls real quick. I'm sure you've talked about this a million times, but how do you think this album would have went over if it had a proper release? I know I wish it had a proper release. You probably feel the same way.
Yeah, I mean, look, I was just happy it was going to come out at all, because let's face it, Unplugged, which is going to have an anniversary very soon, which I'm going to celebrate with a really nice video thing for. But honestly, I was just glad it came out, you know what I mean? But it's very hard to imagine Kiss. It was like, I remember this one Guitar Player magazine one time, imagine if Jimi Hendrix never died. Okay?
Right.
And it went from 70, from when he died, to like, what was next for him, Then what was next for him? And now he was on, I think this magazine probably came out in the 90s or something, up until like that. And it was really well done. Whoever creatively came up with the concept, he really delivered something that was quite plausible for a superstar genius guitarist like that carrying on his career.
Yeah.
And I don't even have like a fantasy as to, because it was so obvious the direction of Kiss veering off into kind of like Star Wars coming back again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That it was just pop culture time to put the guys in makeup with nothing new. They didn't need anything new.
Nope.
The interest was there, the desire to see them, and for them, meaning the fans, to experience them on stage in all that glory. In fact, in more modern glory, because now the technology in '96 is going to be different.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Yep.
From the last time that they were able to tour. So, it was a big deal. And that's why, like, I can't even imagine what a Carnival of Souls tour could have been, or what it would have been next for us. I just can't. Maybe I should reach out to that guy who wrote the Jimi Hendrix.
We want to see the tour. We want to see what the videos would have been like.
What's the next record? Is it a throwback to the more, early Kiss? Whatever. I don't know.
So as much as it sucked, obviously, to be out of Kiss, do you think that obviously the reunion was an essential move for the band to, to just have the status that they have today?
It was the right time. I remember going to see them in the LA Forum in Los Angeles, and anyone who saw me, of course I had VIP seats and the whole deal, but you're going through the crowd to a certain extent, and everyone saw me shouting, "Hey Bruce, we'll see you next year." Because Kiss kind of just put it out there, wisely so, that, hey, we're going to do this for a year. Let's see what happens.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And I kind of knew it was over because it would be so successful, and makeup being, so unique that if they could do the kind of numbers that they were proving to continually do in 96 and 97, there's no turning back, basically. So, I accepted that. It's business. It's there's a genuine love for my era that I find has kind of really grown a lot in the past years. But I do think the way Kiss tours now and how they look, and how they can use technology with those massive shows with these stages is probably the best model for the band.
Yeah.
And the success surely supports that. And Eric and Tommy do an amazing job, in their roles as those makeup characters. And I know some fans give them, some criticism for that. I don't necessarily. I can understand why they might feel that way, but those guys really do an incredible job,
Yep.
and they're very talented at it. So for me, the big picture is more that they do continue moving forward the brand called Kiss in such an incredibly successful manner that it always reflects positively towards me as well, because all those new fans that jump in, they're always, what's, oh wow, they didn't wear makeup. Oh, this is interesting.
Right,
Let me check this out.
Yep.
What's this? What's that? And now in the age of the internet and YouTube and everybody sharing stuff and all the streaming ways you can listen to anything, all of a sudden there's I meet teenagers that are freaked out and know everything about me and my years in Kiss. It's totally mind-boggling, So it's a good thing, And then, I do think whenever that last gig is or whatever, they'll celebrate, by having my participation. But right now everything is so up in limbo when they can restart, even though it's looking like next summer, and let's hope that works. But certainly Kiss has always been in the forefront and always been successful, and that doesn't hurt me. That's still a very positive thing in my life.
Definitely. Well, hey, Bruce, I appreciate your time. What do you want to say to your fans in closing?
Well, I certainly, I do really appreciate everybody reaching out on social media and appreciating the things I've been sharing, regardless of what my manager might say. And everything that's kind of like a video type thing you can find on the YouTube channel. So subscribe there, hit the bell. That's a new thing Lisa learned. You gotta tell them to click on the bell, because I think she's watching someone's series lately and they get a notification, And my website is kind of new now, brucekulick.com. It's only a couple years old, and I'm always putting good content up there as well. There's a lot of exciting things coming down the line, more performances. I am trying to develop some interesting items that I know a fan would love to have on display in their home Kiss museum,
Mm-hmm.
Maybe another mini guitar and another ESP guitar runner, those multi-swirl, things like that. And I am working hard on trying to do at least at first one song from the guys that I do the cruise with. The guys I affectionately call the Mob, members of Bruce's band. And we're going to work up a song this summer. I'd like to see it come out in the fall. And more stuff. I'm just going to keep, moving forward with the creative stuff. And, I certainly also want to just let everybody know to be be patient with all this and be kind to everybody, because it's been very stressful for the entire world, you know, and I just hope everybody can, you know, understand that we're all going through it, you know what I mean, and we'll get through it eventually, you know, but hopefully soothing good music and rocking music and everything. Oh, and don't forget, please, I'm always busy with these cameos, which are great ways to give shout-outs to people. I actually just completed 2 right before our interview here. And then I offer those guitar lessons or just those video chats with people through Meethook, which is really a lot of fun. So look for all that, and all that's, you know, you can find out how you can do all those kind of things from my website and everything. So, and thank you for your time, and I'm glad that, you know, you're still out there spreading the good word, right?
You got it, man. Well, hey, I really appreciate it, Bruce.
All right, well, you be well, okay?
You too, Bruce.
Okay, all right, bye-bye.
Bye now.
Wow, that was an amazing interview with Bruce. What a cool guy. Well, you heard Bruce. He mentioned he'd love it if somebody put together a Carnival of Souls tour, kind of what if. Well, hey, I'm the perfect guy for that job. So here we go. Here's my plan for the stage. Now, they've had the Sphinx, they had Lady Liberty, and I say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Let's put the guy with the flaming head in the back, the one that was supposed to be on the cover of Carnival of Souls. He can have glowing eyes, he can have flames shooting out of his head, rockets shooting out of his head. It would be awesome. I'm also envisioning some screens on each side of the stage that can show some crazy footage from time to time. So, the set list. I'm using some of my own ideas and some elements from their 1995 Japan shows as a reference. So, I'm thinking, you know what? Let's start off with Unholy. On the screens, we'll put some cool clips from the video, all that crazy footage of little kids doing the Ring Around the Rosie, all that weird footage. We'll put that on the screens. Next, we'll do King of the Nighttime World. Then we'll do one off Carnival of Souls, Master and Slave. She, I Want You, Calling Dr. Love, and then Hate. So the next thought was that would be a segment of the show, and then they'd break things down and kind of maybe condense and play in the front of the stage, and they do like an Unplugged thing. Unplugged was a big hit. Why not? And I saw Motley Crue do something like this on their 1994 tour, so I thought this would work perfect. So you figure we'll do Sure Know Something, Unplugged, World Without Heroes, I Still Love You, and Domino. And what we'll do is we'll have a little bit of a break. That'll all get cleared out, and then I'll be back to the show. I figure start it back up, hard and heavy with War Machine. And we'll have a big display. We can, before the song starts, we can have the stage look all blue and have that guy's eyes glow. A little throwback to Creatures of the Night. And then we can do tons of pyro, violent war clips on the screens. I think this could be a big, segment of the show. Big turning point. Then we'll do Makin Love, Lick It Up. We'll do The Jungle. Hey, gotta do The Jungle. Everybody loves The Jungle. We'll do Love Gun, and then Black Diamond. And that'll kind of be the end of the show. And of course, it never is over, right? You gotta do an encore. So with the encore, we'll do I Love It Loud, Detroit Rock City, and Rock and Roll All Night. So that's my idea for set list. I put this out on Twitter as well, and some people had some really cool ideas. I'll try to paste those in the link of this video so you can look at what some other people's ideas were. So let me know what you think. Is that a cool idea for Carnival of Souls? I really wish it would have had a proper tour and a proper release. A lot of people say The Elder. They'd love to see The Elder have a proper tour. But sometimes these things just don't happen, right? So I hope you enjoyed this. It was a lot of fun. Talk to you next time. Rock on!